Hi guys, welcome back to another video here of House Divided. We took a slight 2 week break for spring break. We had different spring breaks, so we just decided to take a little break, but we're back here now with, I know our last video was free agency predictions. Now that most of the big players have fallen, we'll do some reactions to NFL free agency. So we'll go by position group, starting with quarterback. The first one being Sam Darnold to the Seattle Seahawks. What are your thoughts here?
I really like this for both parties. We'll start out with Sam Donald. Obviously, an ideal world, you stay with Minnesota, but they have McCarthy. Obviously, not paying you $36 million was in their best interest. And you've seen what they've done with the trenches. I think they've built a really solid team. And for him, I think Seattle's a great option. I like what McDonald was able to do with the team last year. They obviously have Cooper Kupp now. JSN, I think, is solid enough. I want to see them build up that offensive line for him. I don't think it's comparable to Minnesota's, but I do think it's a decent fit. It's a great fit. Seattle really played it very well with the contract structure, so whether it can be kind of like a 1-year deal if he's bad. They have no dead money if they cut him. But I do think he'll do well in Seattle. Like I said, JSN Cup. I think it's a decent fit for him.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. Maybe a slight upgrade for Seattle based on Darnold last season. Still, I don't that division could go either way. There's a lot of talented teams in that division, but I think Seattle has a chance to make a wild card spot. But yeah, they also brought in Cooper Kupp to pair up Sam Darnold with, so he kind of has not as talented receivers as Justin Jefferson, but maybe like a real. Addison had a great season, but a real 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
up there in Seattle. We'll see how they do, but I think it was a great move for Seattle and for Darnold.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how they work with Kupp and JSN both being guys in the slot. That'll be very interesting to see how they scheme that. I'd be very interested in seeing if they get an outside guy in the draft. I think that'd be very interesting. I do think they should focus on that offensive line, though, and make sure that he's ready. He's protected. You have a decent enough investment in Darnold, though. I think he'll be good. Like you said, I think he's a slight upgrade over Geno from last year.
Yeah. Moving right on to a New York team. Went from Aaron Rodgers to Justin Fields. I can start us off on this one. I think if Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson can get back to their college connection, I think it could be a good duo. Obviously, I like Justin better than Aaron Rodgers at that point in his career. Let's see if the Jets can use Justin Fields' running ability and really build an offense around him and not try to just kind of do the same thing they've been doing the last couple of years. But I think it was a good move for the Jets, getting a little younger and trying to kind of win now, but also build for the future.
Yeah, I like the fit. Obviously, you have the Garrett Wilson connection. He was my choice for starter in Pittsburgh next year until I saw the price that the Jets gave him. That's a little rich for my blood. I don't think he's proven to be worth the $20 million a year that he could possibly get with the Jets if he hits all the incentives, which I hope he does. Obviously, I think bringing the mobility to the Jets is going to be very interesting. They obviously lacked that with a veteran quarterback like Rodgers, who's 40 plus, and maybe that could have saved them in such situations. Definitely going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a whole new regime. And I do think maybe Aaron Glenn could get him right. Obviously, he's a defensive guy, so we'll see what that staff does. But I do think he's more of he may be on like a prove-it deal like Baker was with the Bucs a couple years ago. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I think Justin Fields finally getting another shot besides when Chicago was not having a good team built around him. But we'll see what he does there in New York. A lot of pressure playing for the Jets, but we'll see how he responds to that. Moving on to another former Steeler that went to the other New York team, Russell Wilson. Are the Giants scary to watch for or what?
Yeah, they're scary to watch. I mean, that's not going to be fun to watch. It's going to be terrifying for all Giants fans.
Yeah.
The Jameis Winston and Malik Neighbors' greatest fantasy season of all time lasted a whole 5 days. What was the stretch? The 40 interceptions, 40 touchdowns in New York. Russell Wilson, I think, is a decent fit. I think it shows maybe, obviously we don't know, but I think it shows they don't believe they'll get Shador at 3 maybe. I think that's the bigger takeaway if they invested in both Winston and Russell Wilson, especially at 1 year up to $21 million. So that's a lot of incentives you're putting in there. Obviously, I think it's a fine fit for him. The offensive line again isn't great. Only one real weapon, unless maybe they use that number 3 pick on Hunter, and then who knows if he goes offense or defense. But I think it's a good fit for Russell. I don't think Pittsburgh wanted him back, especially after the way the season ended, and I think he got the best out of it. And I do think this is obviously an upgrade for New York after last year.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of like a placeholder, whether they maybe not even with the 3rd pick, maybe in the 2nd round, take eye on a QB or waiting for next year for a top pick with a better quarterback class. But I think it's just a placeholder. I do think Malik Neighbors may have a great season. Obviously he's talented, but I think we saw what Russell Wilson did with George Pickens. So I think it'll be more of the same. So I think Malik Neighbors is going to have a great season, but yeah, not much to expect except like 3 to 4 wins from those.
Yeah, from those. Like we said, scary to watch.
Yeah, it's gonna be like they're gonna be televised all the time too, and it's just not gonna be fun to watch. Moving on here to let's go running backs. Steelers losing yet another player here to the Chargers. Najee Harris to the Chargers. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a great fit. Obviously, Harbaugh's coveted him since he was in high school. He wanted to bring him to Michigan. That recruiting story is a great one for anybody who doesn't know. Just Harbaugh really went out of his way. Even announced prom king and queen, or I think it was homecoming actually, at Najee's high school. It's a few of the time. Obviously, go and look at the story. It's pretty funny. But I think he's a great fit for the Chargers. He's going to have an offensive line like he never had in Pittsburgh. He's going to have a quarterback like he didn't have in Pittsburgh, who really is going to allow for a good run-pass balance. I think it's a great fit. It's more of a fit than him being a star. I think that's what's great for him. And then on the other side for Pittsburgh, I'll give my insight since that's my team. I don't think it's that big of a loss. His pre-incentive money is similar to what we're paying Jaylen Warren, who is also a free agent. And honestly, he's more. I don't think he's more of a bell cow. He's definitely more of like a compliment back. But they had similar enough production, and he's had the better yards per carry, and I think he was more necessary to fit just at the price point. And I do think we'll bring a replacement through the draft. I don't know if it's going to be early in the first, like some mocks are suggesting maybe Omarion Hampton. I think we might go a little after that, a little later, maybe with the 3rd or 4th round pick. But it'll be interesting to see. And I do think Najee can have a good year with definitely continues a 1,000-yard streak. But I do think he can have probably his best career season, especially with the scheme that Harbaugh likes to run, power rush game with that offensive line. He can definitely have his best career year.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. He'll have another 1,000-yard season, which doesn't seem like he's been having them, but he has. I think maybe more touchdowns because he'll have those goal line touches because the Chargers will get down there with Herbert behind center. But I like the move for the Chargers. I mean, Dobbins had a great season last season. A little injury-prone running back. Najee's a little more consistent, but we'll see how it works out. Yeah, great move. Like you said, great story with Harbaugh when he was recruiting back in the day.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think last year was the year of the running back, so there was just like re-signing, so there's no need to talk about that. We'll move straight into the wide receivers. One of the latest moves, Stephon Diggs signs with the New England Patriots. I mean, it's just a move that makes you say like he was chasing money, which is fair. And
to be fair to him, I don't think there was a lot of interest for him. He's an old vet receiver. He didn't have the greatest year last year before getting hurt. So
I also think, I mean, it's a good move for the Patriots, giving Drake May maybe a little bit of an overpay, but giving Drake May a number 1 receiver that's a vet, so he can kind of develop a little bit more. But it doesn't move me on the Patriots. I think they'll improve from last year because May will have more time as number 1 and more practice, and obviously he's going to develop. But yeah, I'm not moved. That Bills and Dolphins, I still like a little bit better in that division.
Yeah, I will say though, overall as a general, we'll obviously get more into their other players, but they have been overspending on some players. But then again, so did Washington a year ago when they had the most cap, and obviously this year New England's somewhat taking a similar approach with getting the players. And I do think, obviously, the most crucial thing is going to be Drake May's development. And I think while he's not what he was when he helped develop Josh Allen, he was a great piece with Josh Allen's improvement, and hopefully he can do something similar to Drake May. And I think that's why they made the move, and I think it's a good fit.
Yeah. We kind of already mentioned Cooper Kupp, so we'll skip that. But the guy that replaced him in LA, Davante Adams. What are your thoughts on that Adams going to LA?
I love it for both parties. I think it's a great chance for Adams to get back on track with an elite quarterback like Stafford. He's probably going to have something that he's never had in his entire career, and that is another number one on the side, so that he's going to be facing single coverage sometimes in Puka Nacua. I do think at this point in their careers, he is an upgrade over Cooper Kupp, which I think is great for the Rams. I have mentioned that I loved the Rams to go far prior to Adams when they still had Kupp. I think I like them better now. It's definitely going to be very interesting. I think they're going to be a very dynamic offense. They're obviously going to depend a lot on the health of Stafford and Puka Nacua, but I think they're going to be a great team. And I think Adams going to have a bit of a bounce back season this year.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Adams, what he did at 10 that season when Aaron Rodgers was finding him. Obviously, a little struggle there first, but I mean, I thought it before free agency, but even more now after kind of most of free agency. The Rams are the favorite to win that division, especially with the 49ers losing all those defensive pieces. But the biggest winner to me is obviously Adams, but also Puka, like you said, like he's got another guy on that other side where he doesn't need to necessarily be schemed open. He can just get open. And two guys like that where they can be schemed open and just beat their man one-on-one or even double teamed is scary. So it's going to be an even more deadly pass attack than there was. And McVay is going to use Adams to the best of his ability. So
yeah, I agree. And then obviously we'll get around to the draft once you get a little closer to there. But I saw this idea that I really liked. Obviously, it sounds like too much riches and getting a little greedy, and you definitely have fits you need elsewhere along the offensive line. But I saw a mock that has Matthew Golden going to them, and I thought that would just be the most fun fit ever. You have two absolute schemer get open guys, and then you're going to have Matthew Golden who can take the top off. If that happened, I would just adore the Rams offense, and I think that would be very fun. But with those two receivers, Davante Adams, I don't think they'd do it, but I think that'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think they might go. Obviously, their defense was great last year, but maybe some help on defense on the secondary. But we'll see. I'll move straight into some defenders, some big moves. We have Chase Young going to no, excuse me, not Chase Young. He stayed. Joey Bosa going to the Buffalo Bills. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, he's obviously a player who's a bit past his prime. I think it's just a good piece, a solid starter piece for the Buffalo Bills. It's a replacement for Von Miller with a slightly younger player who's still old. Just to replenish. I do think they still should look forward to fixing that D-line. I don't think that trench is strong enough to make the run yet. We'll see. We'll see what they do. And it's a decent fit. It's an average fit. I don't think it's anything crazy.
Yeah, I think he'll have some bright spots here and there where he rushes the quarterback or makes a big play in the game, but he's not what he used to be. He's still a great player, but obviously went from Myles Garrett to Joey Bosa, but a good pickup for them there. Little defensive boost. Moving on here to a linebacker, a move that I liked a lot for an up-and-coming team. Dre Greenlaw to the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos are definitely one of the biggest winners in free agency this year. I love the fit for Greenlaw. Obviously, he's had a tough time since the Super Bowl. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, really. So we're gonna have to. It really does depend a lot on how he comes back. Injuries like that, it's never easy. But if he does come back, even if it's 85, 90% of what he used to be, I think it was going to be very good for that Bronco defense that led up 35 points in the playoffs of the Bills. I think it's going to be very important for that next step that he's there.
Yeah, I think if he gets back to what he was before all the injuries, it's a scary sight. Broncos have a good young defense, but they're just trying to, especially that linebacker spot, kind of solidify it along with Pat Surtain. I really like what everything the Broncos did, and I still have the Chiefs winning that division, but I think the Broncos will put up some fight as well with the Chargers. That's a really tough division now.
Yeah, they'll be one of the most interesting divisions to watch this year, definitely for sure. I think the Colts, I mean, not the Colts, they're in the South. The Chargers, like you said, the Broncos, obviously, two very intriguing playoff teams that I think can do be very, very well this year. Obviously, the Chiefs are the AFC champs. And even the Raiders, I think, are interesting with Pete Carroll. They went out and got Geno. So they're going to be very interesting. We'll see. I think right now they're the favorites for Gene T. So they're going to be very interesting to see this year, too. I think it's going to be maybe the most fascinating division in the AFC this year.
Yeah. Okay, moving on here to another former 49er. Their defense kind of got picked off in free agency. Javon Hargrave going to the Minnesota Vikings. I will say I like that a lot. Doesn't seem like too much of an overpay. I think, especially in that division where there's a lot of powerful running attacks, to have a big body that can stop the run very well and also get to the quarterback is important. So I really like that pickup for them.
Yeah, Minnesota, the Vikings are one of my biggest winners of free agency, the way they were able to replenish the trenches, which was somewhat of an area of need after last year. They're very, very strong there now with Allen as well. I think they're going to be very solid defensively now. Flores is obviously a defensive mastermind who I think is going to be able to get them going. And with that pressure that he can now get from just a strong defensive front, that defense is going to be very good.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll help him to stop Jacobs, help him to stop that Detroit offense, but it's a great pickup for them. I think one of my biggest losers in free agency is obviously the Cowboys because we don't do anything, and the 49ers.
Yeah.
Speaking about the 49ers, I forgot to mention there were some big trades involving the Commanders. We'll get to the first one first. Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. What are your thoughts here for both sides, or maybe just Commander side?
I think this is a good deal for both of them. For San Francisco, you were obviously entering a phase where you have too many contracts you need to pay, and now the quarterback's coming up, so you definitely need to tear some things down and retool. And I think Deebo was the perfect choice to do that with. He obviously hasn't had the best time recently, so trading him was up for your best. I don't know if fifth round pick I think is decent enough. It's not great, but with that contract and the way he'd been playing, it was fine. Obviously, for the Commanders, they were able to reshape the contract a little, so that's better for them. And I do think it's going to be a great fit for him. He's obviously going to be a wide receiver, too, there. I think McLaurin stays as the main guy, and I think he's going to be a very useful gadget for Jaden Daniels to use. Obviously, everything from Washington is to maximize this team they have right now. It definitely accelerated their window last year, and I think that's what both of these trades were, the Tunsil trade as well. So that's what I think they're doing, and I think it's a good fit. I think it was a good choice. And for a fifth-round pick, if you really feel like this is your window, you can take on that contract.
Yeah, I'll go into both trades. I'll go into Deebo first. I like that for Washington getting a solidified wide receiver too, who can also, I wonder if they're going to use him as a running back here and there, but is very versatile and can do a lot on the field. Like making routes and catching it, and then also yards after catch. He's one of the best at that. And then the Tunsil trade, I like protecting the rookie quarterback who had the best rookie quarterback season we've seen. And then even if he gets beat, he's one of the leaders in holding, so he'll protect Jaden Daniels when it comes to it. But yeah, I like both the trades. I don't know. I guess Houston wasn't happy with Tunsil and the contract, but
Yeah.
I think one of the struggles for Houston was protecting CJ Stroud. So getting rid of one of the main guys protecting him wasn't necessarily the smartest thing to do, but
yeah, I think it was fine for Houston though. I think they were definitely in a place they were ready to move on from him. So, I think it's not the worst. Tunsil was not having the best year either. I think I like the Debo trade. I think it's very similar to the type of deal it is, and Washington feels they're more ready to win a Super Bowl than the other teams, and I think that's why they made the moves.
Mm-hmm. All right. The last one I see worth talking about here is Shadarius Ward to the Colts. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, definitely an interesting move. They've been a somewhat okay team for a couple of years now. But obviously that was with Minshew when they almost made the playoffs. I think it's a decent fit for Ward. Obviously getting out of San Francisco, it's good. It's very interesting. They brought in some key pieces in the secondary. The Colts did, so they're going to be a decent, very good secondary this year, I think, and they're definitely going to revamp that defense. That I think will be very good. And Indianapolis, I think, will have a better year this year. They're obviously going to have a QB competition with Danny Dimes and AR, and we'll see how that offense is. But I think that defense is going to be very solid.
Yeah, I think going off last season, Colts having one of the worst passing defense. Obviously, they wanted to address that, and that's why they splashed some money here on Ward. But yeah, not a crazy needle mover. I do think they can maybe the only team in that division that could compete with the Texans unless Trevor Lawrence finds a resurgence.
I do think that division is open. I do think Jacksonville has a chance as well.
Yeah, but if I had said number one threat to the Texans, I would go the Colts. So maybe that can help them a little bit, but yeah, not really anything crazy. Is there any other moves you want to
I really like Talanoa Hufanga moved to Denver as well.
Yeah.
Evan to Denver, I think, is going to be very good. Nice for Bo Nix to have.
Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about your team. Yeah.
DK Metcalf Steelers. I like a second round.
Absolutely tanks and beast of receivers on that team.
Some two.
Who's throwing them the ball though?
Mason Rudolph, as of right now, we'll see. Rumors surfaced today that Rodgers might retire. Who knows? I think the player we're mocked now most at pick 21 is Jackson Dart, so that's one to look out for.
I wouldn't mind that. He has high upside.
He's upside, yeah. Ideally, if that were to happen, I think I'd trade down to maybe 27, 28 to accumulate some picks, and I think you could still get him there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely interesting fit. We'll see what comes down. At this rate, I don't think I want Aaron Rodgers. I know it came down to it. I preferred Russ over Rodgers. Russ is obviously off the table now. We'll see how Rodgers looks if he comes back, if he comes to Pittsburgh. It'll be interesting to see. But just going back to the reality, I think Metcalf is going to be a good player. He's obviously a deep threat kind of guy, which you kind of already have that threat. He's similar, not very similar, but similar enough to George Pickens, and that'll be very interesting to see how that offense works. And Artie Smith being the OC, maybe he's trying to, use DK Metcalf how he used his former teammate A.J. Brown in Tennessee. It'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right. You want to move straight into our top 5 returning, or the top 5 are each top 5 quarterbacks we are looking out for in college football?
Yes, let's do it.
I can start us off here. I won't say in particular order, but I'll give the ones I'm looking out for the most. Number 1 being Carson Beck. Obviously, guy before the season was top 5 pick, and then completely failed. And then now he transferred to Miami because of his girlfriend, but then he cheated on his girlfriend.
The U is back.
Yeah. We'll see how he does in Miami, see if he has a Cam Ward type season, see if he can get his draft stock back up, or maybe he'll just get distracted too much down there. But I think he's one to watch out for, especially with the last 2 seasons, how he went from high to low so quick. And then my second one being, I think Drew Aller. Obviously, we know who he is. He I want to see if he can lead this Penn State team maybe to Big Ten glory or national championship glory. He has the returning pieces. He has the veteranship. He has all the pieces around him. So I think this is Penn State's one of their best shots in a while to win that conference and maybe win the whole thing. So I'm interested to see how Drew Aller does. Obviously, an obvious one is Arch Manning for Texas. A lot of hype around him. One of the front runners for the Heisman. We'll see how he does in some hostile environments like Georgia and then those type of big games. But I think good things to come. Obviously, hope he's a future Dallas Cowboy. And then moving on to another guy, DJ Lagway. Obviously, one of the highest rated players out of his class. Had some bright spots last season. I want to see if he can continue it and perform for that Florida team like we saw him do before he got hurt. And then lastly, I think Nico. I think he, again, one of the highest rated quarterbacks from his class. And we saw some bright spots last season, but I want to see if he can put it all together and really cement his name as one of the best quarterbacks in the country and lead Tennessee to the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of those names I really agree with, especially Archibald Manning, I think is going to be a sensation. Obviously, I go to his school, though. A little biased there. A couple of names I agree with that you mentioned. Nico Yamaliava, I think is going to be great. I think he could work his way into the first round this year. I think he's got all the tools, all the talent. DJ Lagway, very solid. I mentioned him. Carson Beck, you talked about his hopefully award-style season. Could wait. He was a first-round pick prior to last season. If he would have gone to the draft, if that would have been earlier, hopefully he can get that form back. I'm going to try to pick some 5 names you didn't mention. I'm going to start with Garrett Nussmeier, one of the Heisman favorites. LSU has been able to provide elite quarterback play for a couple of years now. Garrett Nussmeier's second year as a starter in that system. I think he's going to be very good, and he definitely knows that he has the potential to be a first-round pick if he plays well this season. LSU should be better this year than they were last year. I think they're going to be strong in the SEC. So he's one QB I'm looking out for. Second QB I'm looking out for, Cade Klubnik from Clemson. I think they should be the ACC favorites this year. It's going to be year 3 as a starter for him, year 4 in the program after taking over from DJ. I think he's one to look out for. I think he's going to be a great sensation. He's also another QB that could be in the Heisman mix if he plays well enough. Could be in the mix for a first round. I think he has the tools if he works. So I think he's another QB that could work his way up there. A third QB I am very, very interested in this year is John Mateer at Oklahoma. They're obviously our rivals, so I don't want him to do well. I want him to be bad. But the way he was at Washington State, another guy to look out for a Cam Ward-style season after leaving Washington State. Oklahoma, I think, will be a better team this year than they were last year. It's going to be very interesting to see how he plays. I think he's going to be very solid for the Sooners.
Oklahoma, or maybe it's another team that I saw. I know Florida's too. Don't Oklahoma have like the hardest strength of schedule?
Yeah, they have the hardest strength of schedule. Yeah. That's very good for our rivalry. I think they have the hardest, and Texas has the easiest SEC strength.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. John Mateer is definitely one to look out for. And then going to number 4, I'm going the guy who's taken over or expectedly taken over the reins of the national champions. He's going to be throwing to Carnell Tate and probably the best wide receiver in the country, Jeremiah Smith. Julian Sayin was the number 1 quarterback in college football a year ago, in high school, and he is a very, very talented quarterback. And I think he's going to fit fantastically in this Ohio State offense. I think he's going to be a sensation for the Buckeyes. So he's one definitely to keep an eye on. Especially he's one you can keep an eye on during the spring football window because he's so young that all eyes are going to be on him. And you really want to see his development early. But I think he's going to be very well come early. And he's one of the main reasons I'm looking forward to that possibly 1 versus 2 game in Columbus when they face Texas. It's going to be 2 new starters. It's going to be Manning. It's probably going to be Sayin, and I'm really interested in seeing Sayin in that game. And lastly, I'm very, very interested in seeing if true freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood gets the reins at Michigan. They obviously have a big game against John Mateer in Oklahoma week 2. I don't know if they start with Mikey Keenoff first, but Bryce Underwood is a quarterback that I'm going to be looking at all of spring football, and one I'm very much looking forward to. I think he's going to be maybe obviously as a true freshman, it won't be his first year, but I think by the time we're rolling this time next year, we're talking about him as one of the Heisman favorites for that year. I think he's going to come on late this year. I think he's 100% starting by the time they play Ohio State this year, and we're going to be talking to him as a very good quarterback. And I know I've gone 5, but shout out to honorable mention to the Patrick Mahomes doppelganger. I think the Cornhuskers have a good one in Dylan Raiola, and I'm very interested to see what they can develop this year in that program.
Yeah, I was going to say those two if you didn't mention them, just real quick. Yeah, you pay a freshman or a incoming freshman quarterback $10 million to flip to your school.
Yeah.
You expect maybe not this season, but just some special flashes this season. So I'm very interested to see that. And then Dylan Raiola, like you said, looks like Patrick Mahomes, acts like him, plays like him. So we'll see if he can kind of lead the Cornhuskers to a little better season. They started good last year, but kind of fell towards the end. But yeah, those are obviously another quarterback I'm looking to see, even though I'm not going to be a
Marcel Reed.
Marcel Reed, man. We saw his running ability be amazing and his passing falter here and there, but let's see if he worked on that in the offseason and can lead my Aggies to some good wins.
How do you feel about Micah Hudson? He was there, took some money.
He got there and got mental health problems and left. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Micah, he's not going to play for us. That's all I think. I don't know if he's going to play football somewhere else, but not for us. Obviously, him and Kevin Concepcion got me excited, but I'll take one. So.
Yeah,
a lot of unknowns still left to play out here in college football. Kind of sucks. We have to wait till August, but
yeah,
it'll be a great season.
Yeah.
But anyway, that concludes this episode here of House Divided. Let us know if there's something else you want to hear us talk about in future episodes in the comments. And thanks for watching.